What's going on, everyone? This is Dustin Stelzer with ELECTRICIANU, and today we're going to talk about the 10 power tools that I think every electrician needs to have. Number one, this is pretty obvious, a drill. I say get a good drill, and I'm a big fan of 18-volt drills rather than 12-volt drills. People have preferences either way. 12-volt drills tend to be a little bit lighter. Battery doesn't last as long and you don't get as much power out of it. So I think if you're a pro user, Milwaukee's my favorite. I mean, I love DeWalt, I love Makita, I love Rigid, but I've just had the best experience with Milwaukee, lasting the longest. And I really just I love everything about their company. I like how they operate and I like the shit that they put out. So I'm a Red fan. I say get the fuel line if you're gonna go with Milwaukee. That's their pro grade stuff. So if you see anything that's not pro grade or that doesn't say fuel, that means it's not pro grade. So if you're like, we are professional users, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, people out in the trades, we are what the pro grade fuel line is made for. DeWalt has an XR line, so if you see XR on their tools, it's the same thing, it's pro grade. Rigid has octane, so same thing, just like try to get pro grade stuff. You're going out in the trades, you need pro grade drills. Now, the other thing I like to make sure that my drills have is I like having the hammer drill function on them. So some of their drills are just drills. They've got a couple speeds, that's it. But mine actually has this little hammer drill icon on the side, so I can move this over and drill through masonry if I have a masonry bit. So I love to have a just handheld hammer drill. Number two is an impact driver. This is also my preference, 18-volt M18 Milwaukee fuel. It's brushless. It's just the newest, best top grade shit. A little bit more expensive, but this profile of being able to drill is so much smaller than this. So sometimes you need to fit into really small environments. Sometimes you need more torque to get through something, where this you might be drilling into something, or you're trying to create a hole. This thing, you're probably fastening things and assembling something. So you have a lot more torque on this. I have even used paddle bits or spade bits on this versus this. They make some that are specifically for impacts, but this thing ratchets as it goes. It's kind of like a where this is a solid speed. It's just so get an impact. A lot of times these both come in kits too. So number one and number two, your hammer drill and your impact drill both come together. A lot of times you'll get two batteries with the kit and a charger. If you find a deal like that, I say go ahead and get it. Number three, I've got two different versions of. Both of these again are fuel. They're sawzalls. So I think this is technically called a hackzall, where this is called a sawzall. But if you like being able to hold this like this and have the blade out front, like, it's really handy. It's easy to work with one hand. It's a lot lighter weight. This thing requires both hands, so you actually, it's a lot heavier. There's more torque behind it. I think that the setting on this, 3,000 strokes per minute. This is 3,000 strokes per minute. Okay, both of them are 18 volt. So maybe there's not a whole lot of difference between these. It's just the ergonomics of the thing and the weight. But I love both of these. So you need to have a sawzall as an electrician. If you want to go with the hacksaw version that Milwaukee makes, these are the first people to engineer something that looked like this. Fuck, these were the first people that ever even built a sawzall. So if you want to get the full size version, this is mostly what I've used throughout my trade or my career doing this, even back in the day when they were corded. But I've found that using this in certain environments is awesome too, so maybe having one of each. Next on the list is the right angle drill. Some people call this a hole hog, but it's basically, you can have a large bit on this that can drill holes. So you hold it like this and drill through studs, or you can drill over your head or whatever. But having something that fits in a really small space, they even make small bits so that you can drill in small places. Most of the time you're going to be drilling through like one stud and then the next stud and the next stud over and over and over. So a lot of people will just use a regular drill bit with a paddle bit on it. That works fine too. But a lot of people like the accuracy and being able to just keep this down and drill through holes on one level. So I get it either way. But I think having a hole hog or a right angle drill of some sort, some of them are longer, shorter, whatever, is definitely worth having as an electrician. Next on the list is a circular saw. There's a bunch of different styles. There's like worm drive, where your handle is back here and the battery goes in the middle. There's some of them that are right-handed or left-handed, just depending on what you get. But a circular saw, this is a 7 1/4 inch blade. I love having this, especially if you're in a residential environment or a lot of commercial environments that are built and framed in wood. Just makes cutting like over and over and ripping studs for scabs or whatever you need to do. I like having one of these. This is kind of cool. I've seen a lot of guys out in the field use this too, because as electricians, we're not like ripping massive stuff all day long, so you really don't need a full size deal like this. This is a 4 1/2 inch blade, but it's also really lightweight. You can cut with one hand, or you can hold it with two, but it's a lot more compact version of the same thing. And typically the stuff that we're cutting out in the field are just pieces of things. We're not cutting, you know, entire like rips of plywood, or we're not cutting through things that we have like long cuts where we need a full size deal like this. But a circular saw is another good thing for an electrician to have. Another good tool that I think electricians should have are jigsaws. This jigsaw by Rigid, I've actually got a couple of different brands. This plate moves, so you can cut things on bevels. A lot of times you can get metal blades, you can get wood blades, but being able to cut through really precise and cut things out is a great thing. Sometimes you don't need a full size saw blade to cut and rip through something. You're doing a lot finer work. So having a jigsaw is another cool tool to have. More than likely resi guys are gonna have stuff like this. Maybe some commercial guys, just depending on like if you're doing anything kind of specific in our industry. But more than likely, if you're not doing resi, you're not gonna need one of these. Next on my list is an angle grinder. So this is something you're probably not gonna use very often, but you're gonna get into situations every once in a while, especially if you're doing custom work, custom homes, or doing custom work for businesses, and you need to be cutting like, you know, stainless steel cabinets, and you're, you know, cutting anything that's metal really. Or sometimes you'll have like masonry and things you need to cut out of stone, or you'll have hardy board or things like that, and you need to have a wheel that can cut through something that's cement board or things like that. But having an angle grinder is like a really cool thing to have, because you can get really precise work out of it and get clean cuts. And it just does the job better a lot of times than other tools would. But this is kind of like an ace in the hole kind of tool to have. So not everyone needs one of these, but I think just being an electrician, I've used this thing so many times for so many different reasons. Next up for power tools, this feels embarrassing even calling this a power tool, but it uses power and it is a tool. So I like this brand, but this is a heat gun. So if you're bending PVC, you're gonna use one of these a lot. It's a way to generate heat. A lot of times if you're doing heat shrinking too, if you've got crimps and connections that you've made and you need to put heat shrink wrap over it and like heat it up and shrink that stuff over the top, a heat gun's a good way to go. It's pretty much just a high-powered hair dryer. What I like about this one though is you can set all the levels, so you can set high heat, low heat. When you turn it off, it keeps running, but it's blowing cool air through it, so it cools the tip of this thing down and doesn't just stay like 900 degrees and burn your skin. But you'll probably use one of these in a lot of weird, precarious environments, so it's a good thing to have one around. The next tool that I am absolutely head over heels in love with is a full-size, battery-operated, cordless framing nailer. This is 3-inch nails that it shoots, so full-size framing nails. This is a 21 degree strip, so a lot of these nail strips come in like 30 degree or 21 degree packages. So this thing is just awesome. Like a lot of times you're swinging a hammer and you're up on a ladder and you're above your head and you're trying to block in between something and you're trying to like toenail nails in, and it's not really up there very well because you're not getting a good angle on it. This thing, you just shoot above your head and pop, pop, pop. You don't need to carry an air compressor around. You don't need a hose around. But if you're in residential environments, you're definitely going to use this thing often. Even in commercial environments, I found it. Anytime that you're around wood and you need to put things together, it could be building T-poles, putting your temporary power pole out by a street, nailing the thing together. Like you just get more nails out of it. And you're not beating on the whole structure as you're building it. It's kind of like a gentle way to put something together with nails. So I use the shit out of this thing. I love it. All right, so last but definitely not least is the bandsaw. I have a fuel brushless bandsaw. 18 volt, this is the large version of a bandsaw. Milwaukee actually makes these in 12 volt as well. So the space in here is a lot smaller. The whole tool is like shrunken down and a lot smaller. So it's easier to handle if you're just cutting conduit, if you're cutting strut or something like that. That's really all you need. Something this big, like it requires two hands, or requires you to be kind of clever with being able to set it down and put your material under it and kind of chop it like a normal chop saw. But if you're cutting like 3-inch conduit and it's metal conduit, or even PVC, like this will rip through PVC, no problem. But having a bandsaw on you is like a no-brainer for an electrician to have. And for the longest time, I was using Sawzalls to cut through everything. And then once I got a bandsaw and started using it, I was like, holy shit, what have I been doing with my life? So having a bandsaw around, either one, the M12 is small, a little bit cheaper, a little bit less powerful, but for what we do, it's probably good for everything. It's only once you start getting into the larger cuts, or if you're trying to cut like multiple of something, you can stack them side by side and cut through it. But I'm a huge fan of the bandsaw. All right, my dudes, that's my list of power tools. If there's anything that y'all use that I didn't talk about that you think's really worth mentioning and I missed out, please leave some comments below. Maybe I'll do a video on it. If you have any questions about the brands that I chose, a lot of yellow and red, that's just what I get sent the most of. Milwaukee does a great job of giving me free shit constantly. They want me to find out about every single new thing that they've done. They fly me to Wisconsin to like check out all the new products that they're doing. Like Milwaukee has been on point. And I never really used Milwaukee until like 2 years ago. I always kind of made fun of people. I was a Makita guy, and the way Makita's been making tools lately, I'm red. I'm a red guy. So, love you people. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.